Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Joining us all the way from Johannesburg is Ms. Jaye Richards-Hill. She's the Middle East and Africa. She's from the Middle East and Africa headquarters of the education team at Microsoft. Without further ado, we're very excited to hear about what Jaye has to say. Jaye, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Good to be with you today. I'm going to talk a little bit about future-ready skills and how Microsoft sees that landscape around the world. Just a little bit about me first. I am an education specialist with Microsoft in our Middle East and Africa HQ team. So I cover from Pakistan across to Turkey and all the way south to the South Pole, basically. I was a teacher, researcher. I've worked in university and as a policy advisor for ministers of education. So I think what I do is very much focused on what works well in the classroom. And I didn't get my first computer until I was 37 years old. So if somebody at that age like me can start adopting great tech practice in classrooms, then there's probably hope for almost anybody. We've seen a lot of disruption in the past year or so due to COVID, and it's really thrown up some interesting things for schools to consider. First of all, obviously, we know about the digital divide, but we've seen new digital divides come up between those who have technology but don't know how to use it for learning, and those who have technology and do know how to use it for learning. And we should never assume that just because you have tech or a smartphone or a tablet, that you really know how to use that to support the learning that you're going through. This has meant we've had to look at curriculum design because, of course, delivering a curriculum online or even in a hybrid environment is not the same as delivering it face-to-face. So rethinking the pedagogical approach is really important. And of course, that means we have to empower our teachers with the right skills they need to be able to use technology. But it's not just about the teachers, it's about the learners as well. And this has thrown up some really interesting situations because are we giving our learners the right skills that they need to take their place in the 21st century global economy? So this is what we're going to explore a little bit more today. Now, this is a picture of New York in 1905. And what you see on this screen here are lots of horses. Horses everywhere, horses pulling the trams, horses pulling freight in carts. The whole thing is really focused on horses. And there was a huge industry in New York around looking after horses, caring for them, shoeing them, feeding them, making sure that all of the carts and all the horse-drawn implements were working properly. It was a massive industry employing hundreds of thousands of people in New York, taking up large amounts of real estate for things like stables and blacksmith premises and all those sorts of things. But not so much later, 20 years, if you look at the same street now, all the horses have gone. And perhaps all of those people that worked in that industry servicing the horse-drawn traffic and the reliance on horses, the jobs aren't there for them anymore. But there's been a huge increase in the amount of jobs created for the new technology, which is the motor vehicles that you see in this view. And so it's really important to think about skilling in a way that doesn't look at a negative side when we lose jobs because old technologies go, but it is about giving people the skills they need to be able to cope with almost constant change in the world and new technologies as they come on stream. This is really what the work we're doing at Microsoft is very much focused about. It's not just about the rise of the robots, although automation is going to take many of the jobs that we currently see. But robots are never going to replace humans. And so we need to think about these as opportunities for new skills rather than just losing jobs in the old industries that are falling by the wayside. The fourth industrial revolution, of course, is really spurring that on. And it might be an overused term, but we are seeing this fusion of technologies, cloud-driven technology, blurring the lines between the physical and the digital worlds. And the young people that we see in schools, they are unwilling to draw a distinction between that digital world that they inhabit on their devices and its physical equivalent, the world they walk through and interact with other people in. So this phygital generation are coming through our school systems now, and we really have to think about whether education is fit for purpose, because the future does look very different for these young people. And you've probably seen many statistics like this on the screen, but if you think about some of them, 47% of all current jobs, that's nearly half of them around the world, are going to be taken over by machines in the next 20 years. But despite that, only 33% of the world's demand for employees with tech skills is actually being met. And so when we think about it in that context, it's more important than ever that school equips young people with the skills they need and the resilience to be able to cope with this type of change. Our CEO, Satya Nadella, places a lot of value at Microsoft on reskilling the world. And this is about making sure that everybody has the opportunity around the world to gain the requisite skills they need to be able to participate in this global economy, in this 21st century information age. And this is really underlying a lot of the work we do. And when we think about training and skills, the first thing we've got to think about is, why should somebody do it? The psychology behind why people change is very interesting, but it's not so much about what they do or how they have to do it. They need to understand why they should make the change. We need to appeal very much to that limbic system in their brain, the part of the brain that deals with emotions. And good leaders start there and they work out from there. So first of all, communicating the message about why one should change before telling them perhaps what that change might involve in detail or how they must do it. It's appealing to the emotions of the people who need to make the change and gain the skills. And this is really good leadership. It's about change management, just as much as it is about digital transformation. It's about changing the way people think and the way people work within our schools and our education systems. And of course, that generates a culture transformation where the whole organization gains this growth mindset to be able to cope positively with all of the changes that we see in the world of education. Microsoft is developing our product suite to make sure that we do have these rich, engaging tools that are a part of the tech stack that we offer to education, that make sure that at whatever stage a learner is at, from K through to career, that there is engaging technology that's readily accessible to them, that helps them gain these cross-cutting skills, these social and emotional skills of communication and creativity, and the ability to work together in teams that might be spread out around the world, and above all, resilience of coping with change, ever-changing situations they're going to find themselves in. And I'm sure you recognize many of these on the screen. And I'll show you a few more of these in a little bit more detail as we go through this presentation. But first, some statistics for you. The big lockdown that we're all going through, and if you're like me in South Africa, we're still in, is changing the way the employment market looks. These millions of new jobs coming through in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years are really all about computing science, about software development and cloud role, data analysis, artificial intelligence. This is the source of the new jobs coming through, and that is driving a really shifting demand for skills. What skills are young people going to need to gain in an education system? And as well as technology skills, it really is about those social and emotional skills. They're very important, because if we're not able to communicate and to create and to think critically about solving real world problems, then all the technology skills in the world are not going to help us adapt to this changing world. It's another interesting statistic that 71% of science, technology, engineering, and maths jobs might be in computer science. But only 8% of all the graduates in science, technology, engineering, and maths courses fill this STEM pipeline. Only 8% of those 71% fill the pipeline of jobs that's coming up. So there's a big disconnect between school, university, and the world of work that we need to fix. And it's important to those young people who come through, because the number one source of new wages is computing. Around the world, an analysis of all the new jobs coming up and pay scales really focus in on computing and related employment being the driver of wages, of earnings for people coming through our education system now. And so future ready skills is about focusing on employability. It's about our young people is equipped with those skills they need to take these jobs that are there in the marketplace in this global economy. And For us at Microsoft, it's very much around computing science in its broadest sense. It's not just about focusing on the computer, but everything that goes on around it and all of these new technologies. And it's about supporting teachers to do great work in ensuring that digital literacy is infused across the whole curriculum in a way that really engages all of our students. And the tools that we're building at Microsoft and developing really underpin that support for teachers. When we think about future-ready skills, for us, it's a journey. And as children mature, we layer on top of that journey. And so as you can see here, all the way through from primary education to higher, from K to career, we're building up the capabilities and knowledge of young people with the work we do. So of course we start off with digital literacy, block coding, but also those broader sense social and emotional skills that you can see along the bottom there, right the way through from kindergarten in early ages. And then building on that with block-based coding like Minecraft or code.org. The productivity tools you find in Office 365 and Teams give young people the skill set they need to navigate the technology that they will find in higher education or in their first jobs. And as they move through secondary school, we increase the complexity of the programming, thinking about cloud and artificial intelligence. So this is our future ready skills journey at Microsoft. And that translates really into the product suite that we have and how suitable that is for each part of the education system. And so I talked about digital literacy courses, which we have, but also the Make Code site, the Hour of Code with all of the resources there, and Minecraft, which is a fantastic games-based learning environment in which you can situate almost every area of your curriculum. And on the Minecraft education site, there are a huge amount of lesson plans and resources that will help you do that as teachers. But it's not just about that, about games-based learning, although it's a great introduction to coding. It's about those role-based certifications that people will need and that they can start to do at school that give them a real head start when they're applying for places in higher education or for jobs. So again, the layered approach, building on the complexity of skills and allowing those skills to become competencies is the way that we work with education around the world to support what it's doing to make sure young people are fit for purpose and have the skills that they need. Another way of looking at our resources in terms of our products, and I'm not going to talk about all of these today because many of them relate to higher education. But of course, our open source platform, GitHub, is a huge repository for the industry around open source codes and sits nicely with our cloud platform, Azure. We've talked about certifications. As you'll know, LinkedIn is part of Microsoft. So LinkedIn Learning has some great resources, particularly around those soft skills that we've talked about before. And of course, our Imagine Academy program and Microsoft Learn has the technical curriculum that you need to support your work as teachers in helping young people gain the qualifications they need. Our Imagine Academy really has tracks that are up to the minute curriculum resources to help you teach subjects like computing science, IT infrastructure and cloud, and to start introducing young people to data science and machine learning, as well as the productivity tools that you find in Office 365, which is the leading platform used by business around the world. Our Imagine Academy curriculum tracks and certifications looks a little bit like this. I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but you can see that for each of these tracks, it's a progression from basics and simple learning through to the more complex role-based curriculum and certification that people will need perhaps when they're looking at specific jobs. But all of these start off with the basics, the early skills development that's highlighted in light blue on the screen. So whether they're talking about data science or computing science or productivity, it starts with those basics, digital literacy, learning to code, how to use productivity tools like Excel to visualize data. So we're trying to think of this, as I've said, and I'll keep saying, that journey from K through to career with the resources that we have. And Microsoft Imagine Academy curriculum is now free within our volume licensing agreements that we have with our customers across education. And when you do have a volume licensing agreement with us, you get all of this curriculum from Imagine Academy delivered in a OneNote file for you. And so you can see, you can use this curriculum and integrate it into the work you do with your learners in schools and in universities. This is just a view on the screen of what it looks like for one of those courses, which is Microsoft Excel. But for all of those other courses that I showed you on that Imagine Academy progression there, you'll find the curriculum in the OneNote that comes as part of that licensing. So this is what we're doing about raw skills, focusing on technology and the tools you need to support your use of technology. For schools, particularly those fundamentals courses in cloud, in data and AI, in productivity, are entry level that students in secondary school can do to give them an advantage when they're applying for jobs and to demonstrate their competence and knowledge of the basics of the technologies that they might want to go on and study at university. And of course, when they do get to university, those role-based qualifications take that to the next step. So for us, that junction between secondary school and moving into employment or going into higher education is critically important. Won't dwell on that slide too much, but part of Imagine Academy and the work we do on curriculum is about supporting teachers. So not only are there those industry certifications that relate to technology in the Imagine Academy program, but the Microsoft Certified Educator examination is in there, which teachers can take and which we've seen thousands of teachers use across Pakistan to really demonstrate their competence with a globally recognized industry standard certification. And so our Microsoft Certified Educator is really what we consider to be our gold standard offering to teachers. And we do a lot more to support our teachers around the world with our training partners, our Microsoft internal programs like our innovative educators and our learning consultants. And of course, Minecraft and Minecraft mentors are a big part of the support that we give to teachers in education. If you haven't had a chance to look at Microsoft Learn yet, what you're seeing on the screen is just an animation of what a journey through Learn is. But MS Learn is where we keep an awful lot of our curriculum that relates to these technology courses, these fundamental courses like Azure, the principles of cloud computing that you see on the screen. And as teachers, you can sign up for an MS Learn account for free and go in and look at all of these curriculum resources and perhaps think about how you could use them within your institutions. So MS Learn is one that you might not have come across, but for additional curriculum support and for your own learning, it's a really, really great resource with thousands of courses on and support that you can get for the upskilling that you're doing, not only with your learners, but with yourselves. So how do we reimagine computing science? This would be the next thing we've got to think about. And we've done a lot of work at this at Microsoft in thinking about what should computing science curriculum really look like. Computing science is a very broad area of study rather than a very specific individual discipline, because it builds on so much across the rest of the curriculum in terms of computer literacy and digital literacy and literacy with multimedia approaches, around the technology that you use in classrooms, and of course around how you interact with the world on digital platforms. Computing science really builds on all of those early pieces of work that you might have done throughout your school with your learners. And so when we think about computing science, we've got to think about it in its broadest sense. And Microsoft has just built out a new K-12 computing science curriculum framework that is built on principles and project work that allows young people not only to acquire the knowledge, but to put that knowledge into practice as a skill and then practice it further so that it becomes an embedded competency. And if you haven't seen our computing science curriculum framework for K-12, please reach out to our education team in country in Pakistan, and they'll be more than happy to show you this and walk you through it. So how does Microsoft help educate education systems? Here's a summary of some of the stuff we do that we've built into our computing science framework. And these are the products that help turn computing science into maker spaces where young people have hands-on experience of putting into practice what they're learning. And so Minecraft education is really about coding and about understanding the basics of when you tell a computer to do something with a series of instructions, that computer carries it out. But we've got practical experiments and projects that you can do in your classrooms using everyday materials in our Hacking STEM website, which is free to access. Flipgrid, if you haven't signed up for that, is a great way of giving every individual in the classroom a voice. And many, many resources are available on the flipgrid.com website. So please go and look at Flipgrid if you haven't seen it. Our Make Code site as well, it takes bringing computer science to the next stage, on from Minecraft, with many, many projects that you can integrate into the teaching and learning you do. And of course, as you're able to gain more and more technology, then mixed reality and augmented reality come in, where you can blur that physical and digital world in the classroom. And bringing it all together is Office 365, and particularly Microsoft Teams for Education, which helps to teach young people the skills that are going to be very, very relevant to them in the workplace. So let's have a look at a few of those. Minecraft Education is a great resource to use, and if you haven't seen it, go to the education or minecraft.education.net site and have a look at the hundreds and hundreds of lesson plans and resources that you'll find on there to be able to help you teach almost any subject across the school curriculum. Our Make Code site, as I've said, is about bringing computing science to life, and it's a free web-based platform, so it works across all devices. You can have a look at it, and it will give you some offline capability as well if you haven't got a reliable network. So Make Code is also another great tool to start introducing young people into the practicalities of computing science and how you can use other tools like microbits and Lego Mindstorm robot kits to be able to teach those fundamental concepts that young people are going to need in the world and that are all around them in the world they navigate through. Our Hacking STEM website, again, if you haven't seen that, just search for it on a search engine and you'll find it. Lots and lots of project-based activities using everyday materials that you can help young people to see the application of computing science with real-world problems and challenges. I've talked a little bit about mixed reality, but our mixed reality resources and some of the headsets that you can get from many of our education partners are going to really bring this world of artificial intelligence to life. It's going to be able to bring experts into your classroom. You're going to take your classroom out to the world, to take learners to do virtual field trips, as if they're walking through other places in other parts of the world. Fantastic development that we see coming up, really built on all of these new cloud technologies that we're seeing every day. I talked a little bit about Flipgrid, so I won't go into too much detail there. It's basically part of the Microsoft family. It's a free video discussion platform, very good to use with mobile phones to give every young person a voice within the class. And it is also available within Teams as an app that you can use and bring that into your Teams site. So have a look at Flipgrid. And giving young people a voice, helping them to learn how to communicate appropriately with the world is one of the best skills that they can learn whilst they're in school. And it's going to serve them very, very well in the workplace, but also when they're interacting online. Okay, and of course, Microsoft Teams. I'm sure you all know that Teams is our collaboration hub within Office 365 and giving young people those skills of working with those productivity tools like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, email, storage in the cloud, and collaborating together in a managed learning environment. So if you haven't seen that already, again, check out Teams for Education. When it comes to skills, all of these platforms and products have really been designed with education in mind to help young people to tease out what's important, what they need to learn, and how they need to learn to interact with the world around them. It really is about empowering students. It's about really helping educators, students, about improving performance across the board. The work we're trying to do is really about bringing the world together, using technology to support great learning and teaching in whatever classroom it is, wherever it is in the world. And we work with a lot of partners when we build the resources that we use. So for example, on our Microsoft Educator Center, our teacher training involves courses that we've partnered with NASA on. And these are really great ways for teachers to understand how to bring the world around them into the classroom within their teaching. It really is about Microsoft plus our education partners empowering teachers around the world to drive great learning and teaching. So working in partnership is key to the way that we focus on future-ready skills across education. Office 365, I'm sure you're aware of all the tools in here. Office 365 for education includes that Teams managed learning environment. And every year we run a project called Imagine Cup Junior, and Pakistan is one of the biggest countries entering this competition around the world. It's based on artificial intelligence, where young people come together in small teams to solve global challenges. It runs at a specific time frame every year, and it's for secondary school learners between the ages of 13 and 18. This year, it was built around the AI for Good curriculum, and is a great way of getting young people to take knowledge content about something that's really relevant, artificial intelligence, and turning that into a solution to tackle a global problem. So look out for more information from our local education team about our Imagine Cup Junior competition towards the end of this calendar year. And we're more than happy to talk to you about this as a practical way that your school can take part in this global competition, as well as your learners getting valuable skills around artificial intelligence. I'm just going to finish up now, but one example perhaps of a really great way that we work with ministries of education and system leaders around the globe is on how we build skills into the thinking across the curriculum. This was a project we did in Turkey with a group of schools there, and it was really about developing the teacher capacity to offer the type of engaging curriculum activity that really motivated learners and helped them gain the skills that they need. And we use Minecraft and our MakeCode site predominantly from this, but also our Microsoft Educator Center with all of its teacher training resources that are available to anybody free of charge. So great partnership we had in Turkey with the K-12 system there. And we did another one in America, in North Carolina, where we really wanted to think about the talent pipeline and how to help this state improve the work it did to make people employable. Thank you very much. It's been great to be with you today, all the way from Johannesburg, South Africa. If you want to connect with me, please find me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to talk to you and answer any more questions you've got. Thank you very much. The moderator, you're on mute.
Right, Jay, thank you so much. It's enlightening, to say the least. You've made a lot of sense, and frankly, there was a lot of things that even I, for one who has worked in the education sector, was not aware of. And I would request all those watching us today, and especially the global shapers and all the stakeholders with education, to look into Microsoft solutions, because I know, for one, that there's some very exciting things that are happening. Jay, hats off to you and your team. Thank you for joining us once again. And for those of you who want to connect with you, can do so through our forum or just approaching you through LinkedIn. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, that'll be all for now. From Jay Richards, stay tuned for another panel on adapting the curriculum for EdTech.